Welcome to another episode of Roll or Die. Today's guest is a black belt at dominance by way of the USA. He is a musician. He's an all-round great guy, and we're really looking forward to having this chat and getting to know him a bit better. He is Ron Romero. Thanks for joining us, Ron.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Hey, it's awesome to have you on, Ronnie. Kim always describes this as like a mat side chat, and I'm lucky enough that you and I have had loads of mat side chats, and I
Yes,
always
we
really
have.
enjoy them. So, which is really cool. So I know small bits about the start of your jiu-jitsu journey, but mate, can we go back to sort of when you first started jiu-jitsu and why and sort of who took you along or how you got into it?
Yeah, no worries. It's actually, I find it a hilarious story, because I'm going to take this out. Um, I got into watching UFC once I came into Australia, and a friend of mine I was watching it with, his name's Nash. He's a guitar player. And we were just watching it, and I didn't know what actually happened. The match just finished, and like it seemed like it was out of nowhere. And I was just asking him about it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that you should check out Gracie Jiu Jitsu." And that's just, and after that, I just went and I just went online, typed in Gracie Jiu Jitsu, and I actually came across that Gracie University. And so I actually signed up to that, and I started looking through it. And my wife, who was my girlfriend then, I would just try stuff out on her. And so I was going through it, went through, like, I forgot what they call it, like their slices or something like that. And then eventually she's like, "You can't do this on me anymore." And so I kind of had nothing to do. And I actually had a friend of mine who was going to Monash University with me. His name's Scott. And he's like, "Oh, I train jujitsu at this place, Dominance Jiu-Jitsu. You should just come check it out." And so I did. And once I did my first class, I was hooked, and I haven't stopped since.
So how far into the Gracie University syllabus did you get?
Wow. I can't even remember this. I did all the free ones basically.
Yeah.
And does
Yeah.
Scott and Nash still train?
Nash does all kinds of different things, but he stopped doing
Right.
jujitsu because of his shoulder. And Scotty
Yeah.
he came back like, a couple of years later, and then he disappeared again.
The
Yeah.
retention rate is so hard, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so many people actually have joined as a result of the UFC. It's amazing,
Mm.
really. That's probably the most common, I would say, thing that gets people into jiu-jitsu. So I didn't realize that. So you've been at dominance all along.
Yeah, the whole time.
Yeah. Why did I think so? Tell us about when you came over to Australia. Then was that maybe that's where I'm getting confused. You came
Oh,
over
so
from the States, yeah.
yeah, I came around, I think it was a little bit before 2007,
Hmm.
because I was working on cruise ships as a musician,
Hmm.
and I met my wife on there. We were working together, and I actually just came to visit to see what it was like. And after spending a couple of weeks here, I actually just really enjoyed it. That had nothing to do with martial arts. It was just the vibe of Melbourne,
Yeah.
and also, what was it? It was like the music scene, pretty
Yeah.
much. And it was a weird time of my life where I didn't really know what I was doing with myself. And so, one of the I think it was kind of one of my last nights here. I went to this gig. There was these two really good saxophone players playing, and it like blew me away. They were like really good. And when I came to Australia, I didn't know really what to expect, what the level of musicians were going to be when I got here. And then after that, I was like, nah, I gotta stay. I gotta study with these guys, and learn some things. So I kind of went and did another cruise ship gig. And while I was away, I decided that I wanted to see if I could get into school here because that would be one of the easiest ways to stay. So I actually did an audition into Monash and then got accepted, and then that's what made me stay. And then eventually I ended up doing the partner visa and staying, getting my permanent residency.
I love
And then,
that.
early days, before cruise ships and while you're in the States, sport that you were into, you were into sport back then? So was getting into martial arts something new? Was your sports background like pretty good in anything?
It was actually like just me and my cousin. Me and my cousin are 6 months apart. And we grew up really close together, and so we used to fight each other all the time. And we would try like like WWF on each other, and we used to get like martial arts books, and you like we got this judo book one time, and we would try and throw each other onto the bed. But our family wouldn't let us actually do martial arts. I could never actually do it. And so it wasn't until way later that so I didn't start jujitsu till I was 30. And that's when I actually got a chance to do it. But sports wise, I just did track and field for like 2 years. That was it. I was a music nerd. That was what I spent all my time doing.
With
Awesome.
music, Ronnie, so now like you're a black belt in jiu-jitsu, you've been training jiu-jitsu obviously for quite a long time, and then music for a lot longer. Um, Give us some crossovers because we talk to like guests and we have guests on, and it's amazing how many jiu-jitsu practitioners are also musicians. Probably not to the level that you are at, but we've had quite a few. Like Dave Kappa is a musician and he's played gigs. So, what sort of crossovers in learning from jiu-jitsu or from music to jiu-jitsu did you find?
It's exactly the same. Right? Like it's like how you approach it, how much time and effort you put into it is exactly what you're gonna get out of it. Like the dedication to practice, being responsible for your own learning, like the paying attention to the little details and being okay with being bored and spending lots of time on the little tiny things. And just, how you overall just think about the whole thing, organize the information in your head, and then the actual practical doing it part of it as well, the mindfulness of it all. Um, I always find that, like, once I started doing jujitsu, it actually helps with my practice in music, and my music helped in my practice of jujitsu as well. So very early on, I that it just clicked to me that this is exactly the same. So I would take things that I would do in my practice and then try and do them in jujitsu as well. The best example of that would be, I think it might have been right the end of white belt or maybe even the beginning of blue belt. I bought like a GoPro, and I would bring it in, and all the positional sparring and all the rolls. I just started to videotape myself and just go back home and watch it. And I would be thinking, like when I was rolling, I was like, oh yeah, this looked great. That sequence was amazing. Like my posture was good, everything. And then I go back and watch it, and I was like, oh, that was not as good as I thought it was in my head. And that's like invaluable information because, in your head, you could think things are going really well or really badly. And then you see it from an outside perspective, and it's completely different. And it makes it more real. And you could take that feedback on and do something about it. But I remember, like my coach being like, posture, posture, posture. And you'd be like, come on, like I got good posture. What do you mean? Like I'm
Yeah,
nailing it. And then I go back and watch it. I'm like, oh yeah, I know. I see what he's talking
I see
about.
what you're talking about.
I agree entirely with that too. I think a lot of the time we only film ourselves in competition, which is a really specific type of rolling that you're doing. It's not always a true reflection of how you roll the rest of the time. So I really encourage people to do that. Just put a phone, by the side of the mat
Yeah.
and try and film yourself at training, because you'll probably get more out of watching those ones back than your competition matches. And the other thing too, what you were saying, I think I don't know about other people, but I watch, high level athletes most of the time doing jiu-jitsu. So then when I see myself, I'm not the same as, the world beaters. So
Yeah.
it's a very different experience, especially if, you're a white or a blue belt and you're used to watching, top class black belts
Hmm.
on the mats. You're quite humble, I think, Ronnie, but you're a very successful musician. And can you tell us a bit about when you played at the AFL Grand Final?
Oh yeah, that it was a funny I remember like so you said like a high level musician or whatever, and I just see myself as like just a regular a regular person. So I was at work. We were doing I teach music at schools as well. And we were doing like the student led conferences, like parent
Yeah.
meetings. And I was just waiting for my next meeting, and my friend Jordan Murray, he's like calling me, and I was like, "Okay, I got time. I'll pick it up." And he's like, "Hey, how's it going? I got this gig. It might or might not involve some dancing." And I was like, "Oh no." That's probably a hard no. He's like, just hear me out. I don't know what it's going to be like, but we're doing this gig for the grand final with Robbie Williams, and he's like, it might be like a tiny bit of choreography or not, but why don't you just see how it goes, and then we'll just play it by ear, see how it goes. It ended up not being too bad. I think they wanted us to do a little side to side something, which wasn't too bad. But yeah, a glimpse into the life of the musician. So that was probably like a week out or 2 weeks out. And then they sent us a bunch of recordings and the sheet music. And they're like, okay, it's 20 minutes. You have to memorize it all. And we have a rehearsal next week. So, and so after that, I spent, I don't know, hours and hours just listening and playing and trying to memorize all this music. It was very stressful, not the playing part, the memorizing and thinking about what they're gonna make me do with this choreography. But it was pretty chill actually. That was probably my first time even going to the MCG. So going in, walking onto the field, and then the rehearsal part where it's like almost empty, except for like press, people taking pictures, and then there's like Robbie Williams over there and Delta Goodrem over there, and all these people, and then you just do it, run it a bunch of times, and then come back a couple days later, and then there's 100,000 people there, and then you just have to remember all the little things, directions that they gave you. You got to walk here, go there, go hide behind the stage, wait 2 songs, come back. But it went smoothly. It was pretty good.
You had a bit of
Wow.
TV time, mate. I remember watching it, knowing that you were going to be on, so that was really cool. How how do you go with that learning? So obviously you know the instrument perfectly, right? Like that's no problem.
Yeah.
And you're sort of sitting there and saying like, it's hours of study, but is it hours of study? Like, do you pick it up really quickly and then sort of just are you refining it? Because I gather the notes are the same, but it's just how it sort of all strings together. Would that be accurate?
It's actually funny. Like if I could have the music in front of me, I would have taken 1 minute to look at it and
Yeah,
just go
yeah,
like, okay, is there anything tricky? Nah, it's fine. It's gonna be fine. But like the memorization is completely different because these weren't necessarily songs that I would listen to. Like, so I didn't know them.
yeah.
And because you don't get that sheet music to look at, you have to have the whole, like the form and where you play, how long do you rest, then you come in. And that's the part that I definitely don't have a good memory. I have a hard time remembering people's names.
We all do, Ronnie.
But,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's not the refining or the playing, it's literally just the memorization.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wonder, because you had glasses on, right? You had those dark glasses on.
Yeah,
Like you needed, like, I don't know, like Google Lens glasses or whatever, where you can just play the
that would
sheet
be a game
music.
changer.
And
What an
Ronnie,
experience.
you're a teacher as well, and you
Yeah.
also teach. So you teach music, but you also teach jiu-jitsu. So you mentioned earlier about the crossover. Does
Hmm.
the same thing apply? Like when you're teaching jiu-jitsu, do you use the same sort of principles as
Oh
when you're
yeah,
teaching music? Yeah.
100%. Like I remember when I first started teaching, I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna, just tell them what to do, and they're gonna do it, and it's gonna be really easy." And then I got in there, and it was like, "Oh, okay, this is not that easy." Something that I guess that you spend so much time dealing with is like, it seems like it's really easy in your head, and then you have to describe that to someone who has no experience in it. And then so you have to learn how to like take that information and present it to them in a way that they can understand at their level. So yeah, because I'd been doing teaching music obviously longer than jujitsu, I would definitely take those kinds of things into the teaching of jujitsu. So instead of, for example, just showing a whole sequence, I like to like break it down. It's like we're gonna do this part, then we're going to do that part. We're going to put those together, and then we'll go into some extra details. And if some people aren't ready for those details, that's fine. They just keep practicing. If this person's ready for some more details, I'll give that person a little bit more details. It's this idea, they call it scaffolding. So you just got to treat, your basic information where everybody should be able to understand. And the people who are ready, you give them a little bit more. So everyone's at a different level. Um, and one of the other things I actually noticed from being a student in jujitsu, my coach would be like showing a technique. Dave would be doing this, and I like to I scan the whole body. When the teacher is showing a technique, I'm looking at what they're teaching, and I'm looking at the rest of their body as well. And I remember he was doing like an arm bar or something. He's like, you turn your hips, and I was like noticing like with his leg, he was doing something, and I was like, he's not mentioning that at all. What is that? What is that thing? And I asked him later about it, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't even realize I was doing it. I've been doing it so long, I didn't even know." And then I took that from jujitsu into music as well. I was like, "What am I doing?" That I don't realize that I'm doing, that I'm just assuming that everybody else is going to do, just because they feel it, and try and work on those and come up with an explanation for them. And I try and do that in jujitsu as well. So I've got the technique that I'm showing, but I also try and describe like what it feels like or what it should feel like. And then when I'm, going through after they're all drilling, I'm also taking that on board. Like I'm looking at what the main part of the technique that they're doing. I'm looking at the rest of their body as well, and I call it like it's like playing the what's it called, the what spot the difference? Spot the difference in my head.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this isn't working because this is different.
Mm,
Yeah, that's a
yeah.
cool way to actually describe teaching, I think, hey. Like it is, I think teaching it's an active skill.
Yeah.
Like it's an active thing that you're doing. Like sitting there and just talking through it, like doesn't really work, but like
Yeah.
being active in helping people learn, I think is probably one of the keys to becoming a great teacher, right?
Hmm.
Huh, that's interesting. With your teaching, like there's that saying, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Do you kind of see that in music and jiu-jitsu, like those sort of crossovers? Like sayings are obviously sayings for reasons, right? But like, do you see those sorts of things and go, yeah, like if you slow this down, then you're going to actually get better and faster with doing these techniques?
Yeah, I have that conversation every day. Every day.
Come
I
on, let me play
also
the song. Let me play the song.
yeah, exactly. I always go, I like the saying as well, which is like I hate um practice makes perfect.
Yeah,
The saying that I like is practice makes permanent,
yeah,
because your body obviously doesn't know what's going on. This is new information for you. So whatever you tell it, you input it over and over again, it's just going to remember. So you might think you're doing it wrong, but you're doing it incorrectly, and that's just going to become permanent. So if you slow it down and make sure you know exactly what you should be doing, break it up into little steps, you'll actually end up learning it faster, and then you'll be able to, perform it. So if it's a song, you'll be able to perform the song faster. If it's a technique, you'll be able to hit it in a roll faster if you actually slow it down. So you do actually have to be patient, and you can't rush the process. Otherwise, you're going to put some holes in your game, and you're going to be doing the technique wrong. And then you might give up on the technique because you're like, it doesn't work for me for whatever reason. And the real reason is you're not doing it right.
yeah. Hey, here's a question for you and Kim, Ronnie.
Yeah.
As a teaching white belt or teaching lower belts, how much of a stickler do you need to be in regards to getting the techniques really good? Or can you have them good, but hey, we'll work on this when you're a blue belt or a purple belt or whatever? Does that question make sense? Like,
Yeah, perfect
what
sense.
would you say?
When I first started, I thought that they all had to be perfect. And now I've changed my perspective a little bit. I'm more like, I'm actually not thinking about this is something that they may or may not use up until black belt. I think about it as practice. And right now they're just practicing learning. Like they're practicing learning what all these terms mean. Believe it or not, they're learning their left versus right. I'm just saying, now move, like grab their wrist with your left hand, and some are going like, which one? And following instructions, when I'm, because I like to demonstrate the technique first, and like I'll be looking around, and some people are looking over at the other side where Link's teaching, and like wishing that they were doing all the cool stuff. And I'm like, no, you got to be here. Just it would be, ideally, it would be great if they learn the technique perfect, but in reality, like I'm dealing with zero stripes, so the chances of them getting it perfect are very small. And the
Yep,
way that we set up, um, the whole cycle, so zero stripe to first stripe, they're going to go through these techniques 3 or 4 times, like every 10 weeks or something like that. So I
yeah.
always go, this first time, you're probably not going to remember it anyway. The second time, you're going to vaguely remember it. And then that third time, you're like, oh, yeah, I remember this. And you're actually more likely to be able to hit it in the roll.
Yeah. And to that, I'd also say, Brentos, that I feel like jiu-jitsu is just so overwhelming, yeah, especially when you first start. There's so much information, and even as you progress through the ranks, there's still. I think some people still have this perception that a black belt knows everything. That's not the case at all. For me,
Mm,
anyway, especially, I feel like I'm good at a couple of things, but there's a whole bunch of stuff that I've got almost no idea about.
yeah,
And so I think the same applies, especially as a beginner, as a white belt or as a blue belt. Like you can get through almost all the way through to black belt without knowing. You certainly don't know everything perfectly, and
Yeah.
you probably do yourself a disservice. You probably quit if you try to do it perfect, because the attrition rate's already high enough in jiu-jitsu. Yeah, so I think if
Mm.
you got enough to get you through, that's enough. Yeah, like no need to like perfect it. Obviously, you're going to have some things that you're great at, but you don't need to be. It's almost impossible to be perfect at everything at
That's right.
jiu-jitsu.
I like to
Yeah.
think about it as like, everyone has their A game, right? So like you might be a black belt in that, but there's definitely positions that you're a white belt at,
Yeah.
maybe blue belt, and your job hopefully is to try and build the whole game up to black belt. But the
Yeah.
reality is most people just get good at a very specific set of techniques that work
Yeah.
well for them. And they might go and compete and be able to do that against competition. And if someone puts them in that one of their white belt positions, they might lose that match. And if you're doing your job right, you'll take that lesson, go back to the gym, fix it up so that if you ever end up in that position again, next time you're going to perform better at it.
Yeah. Yeah. And Ronnie, you're a big guy, yeah. Maybe people who might not know you, you're around 100 kilos. So now as a black belt, you've obviously got the technique, but especially prior to that, when you were first coming through, how was that for you? And can you give any advice to any other bigger guys, particularly at the lower ranks, who have to roll with people that are much smaller than them? What sort of
Mm.
things did you do?
Um, I always like my ultimate goal is to be like Jean-Jacques. Every time you see him rolling, he looks like he's not even trying. So at the beginning, it's really hard because you barely have any control over your body. And obviously you've got that competitive side that's telling you got to win every position. So the better I got at, trying to, like, for example, if I'm trying to control a person, I would try and see, like, what's the least amount of effort I could put in to control this person? Like, can I control them with, like, just my elbows and my knees, or do I have to use all my body weight? Um, but it's hard at the beginning. So I think it's an ego kind of a thing. You have to be willing to lose a position, and be willing to lose in general in order to learn. And I always like to let people come to me when they're rolling as well. So I'll kind of like put my hand up, but I'll just look around. If someone makes eye contact with me, I'll just go there. But sometimes I really like to roll with smaller people now. But back, a couple of years ago, it'd be hard because you just be thinking about not hurting them or just smashing them. And are they? I know sometimes you don't really have to think so much about are they enjoying enjoying the role. It's kind of like a weird thing in jiu-jitsu, I think. Sometimes enjoying a role is like you got smashed, but
Yeah.
some people aren't like aren't aren't into that. So I just try and I do kind of pay attention to the body language of the people that I'm rolling with as well. If they're getting super frustrated, I might back off a little bit, or if they're going super hard, I might go a little bit harder. But the advice is try and check that ego. I like, maybe play a different position, like play the bottom position, let them play on top. One of the times where I made the biggest gains is when I would just start bottom side control. I was like, okay, you start. If anyone ever asked me where I wanted to start it, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to start on bottom side control with my frames and just try and get back to a guard. And then when I was able to do that, I'd let them start without any frames, see if I could get it back. And then if I ended up on the top position, great. But just put yourself in a bad position. And then when you go with a bigger guy or bigger person, then work on the top pressure.
To add on to that, because I think all of that is really, really good advice, and to add on to Kim's question, quite often, and you guys would probably both get this a wee bit now, is like, as a lower belt, lower belts often will sit there and say, oh, like, I don't want to waste your time, like, I don't want to ask you because I don't want to waste your time. Like, I'm a white belt or I'm a blue belt, you're a black belt, so I don't want to waste your time getting you to roll with me. What would you say in that regard?
I would say I would
Fuck off, you're wasting
encourage
my
them.
time.
No, like I reckon it's possible to learn from rolling with anybody. Like a white belt could teach you stuff too. Even the people on their first day. I like to roll with them because that's kind of like as real as it's ever going to get against rolling with someone who's not trained. But I'm just going to give them advice as we're rolling. Like my job. And someone told me this a long time ago. A friend of mine, he actually owns a jazz bar. But he's an Aikido black belt. And one day we were talking about martial arts in general. I think might have been like a purple belt or a brown belt. And he's like, oh, like it's your responsibility as a higher belt to help everybody else, right? And I was like, yeah, that's a good point. I already like to do that anyway, so I'm gonna roll with those people and I'm gonna give them advice. I might try and lead them into positions. I might give them a tip on how to, escape a position, and then I might try and put them there and like see if they could do it. And then I might even, as we're rolling, just like be like, hey, that's that thing I was just talking about. You need to do this now. So I'm definitely going to roll with everyone. And I would definitely try and tell them that's an unhealthy mindset.
Yeah, I agree the same. Like, I would kind of say, hey, we were all beginners once, we were all white belts. So yeah, don't think like that. It's kind of like not a waste of energy, but yeah, it doesn't really serve you, that sort of way of thinking. Um, Ronnie, tell us about the day that you got your black belt.
Cool. Um, I remember what it was like a month or a couple of weeks before that. I never got it checked out properly, but I think it was like a grade one LCL tear. So I wasn't sure how that was gonna go, but it ended up not being a big deal at all. But it was just like a long time coming, So it was just a day to enjoy the process, get to roll with some people, get to see teammates that I hadn't seen in a long time because I spent most of my jujitsu journey in the Abbotsford gym, and then a couple years ago moved to Thomastown to start doing the intro classes. So there's a whole side of people that I used to train with all the time that I really don't actually get to see at all anymore because I was always at Thomastown. So for me, the gradings are just a time to get together. There's a bit of rolling going on, but it's not like a comp class or anything like that. But I got like my family got to come and see, so it was just a happy day. And apparently, I made a really long speech.
It was an awesome speech, mate. Actually, it was an awesome speech.
Thank you. I still haven't
I actually
watched it back.
remember the day. Yeah, I actually remember the day pretty well too. So, I I think you were the third person, or maybe the fourth person that I'd seen get a black belt, and I kind of remember them all. Like they all stand out for different reasons. So I distinctly remember number one running over to you, rolling with you at some like cutting through the line to roll with you a couple of times. I remember doing that. But I definitely remember your wife and kids kind of being on the side and then the kids running out to congratulate you. I think
Yeah.
that was awesome, mate. What did it mean for you to have your family and your kids there on that day? Because you have been, not so much now, but you were away a lot doing jiu-jitsu and work and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it was good because they don't really get to see that side of me at all.
Yeah.
They just know that I'm away at training all the time. And my wife as well, like she definitely sacrificed a lot for me to be able to be at training. I don't think she thought it was gonna be that time intensive. I remember when Dave and Link were asking me to do the intro classes, and we were chatting. It was like, oh yeah, it's gonna be like 4 days a week. I don't know how long it's gonna last for. Um, I think it ended up. I don't even know. Like it's been. I actually don't know when I started doing that, but it's got to be about like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
No, it's got to be longer than that because I would have been COVID time. So, so even longer than that. So,
Yeah.
I just, made a point to, as part of my speech, to thank her and acknowledge her for, giving up that time, and also to my kids for giving up that time as well, and just have them there. Yeah, very special day. Glad that they could be there and enjoy it with me. One day, maybe they'll all get on the mats.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. This next question's from Theo, who edits this
Oh, yeah.
podcast, by the way. He wants to know who's your scariest role? Who's the scariest person you've ever rolled with?
Scary. I don't know. The hardest roles that I have are definitely Link and Kieran.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kieran, he's a special one because he's obviously really good at jiu-jitsu, and he's big and flexible, and he's really good at judo. So like wherever you go is not going to be fun.
Yep.
And also he's super competitive, so he won't let you have anything for free.
Given the chance, he starts with things for free, even against me.
I didn't say that. You said that.
He knows it.
Yeah.
And what about competitions, Ronnie? Like, I know you've competed. You still sort of compete every now and again. Does that sort of stick out? Are there any competition matches that you've had where you're like, oh man, that one was fun, or technique-wise, I was great, or mentally-wise, I just got through? Or are there any sort of comp rounds or competitions that stick out for you?
um, Not necessarily. It's
And
been so long now. I
when did
can't
you
even.
first compete,
I
Ronnie?
can't
When did you first
remember.
compete?
But I remember when back in the day, like so blue belt competition. I don't know. Do you know Panda?
Yeah, I know him. He was one of
Yeah,
my
Yeah.
because
teammates. Yeah.
yeah, we used to like drill together and stuff like that. So we would always roll with each other.
Mm,
And there was a couple competitions where we actually had to compete against each other, and those were really fun. They weren't
yeah.
scary or anything, but because we knew each other so well, they were always just a good time.
Yeah.
I'm just like a weird person. Like I don't necessarily get intimidated or scared anything. I don't know. I can't get past the game part of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I did have one guy. I will never remember his name, but he was a massive, massive guy. This might have been at the gathering or something, and I remember he was just I couldn't move him when we were standing, and something happened. I ended up in turtle, and he literally like grabs my collar, grabs my belt, like picked me up and like threw me, and I was like, wow. What is going on? So that was a little intimidating. I can't even remember what happened in that match after that. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And music-wise, Ronnie, have you got anything coming up in the future? Anything you wanted to tell us
Oh
about?
yeah. So I
And also,
do.
what do you teach, Ronnie? So, what instruments do you play, and what instruments do you teach?
So I like so my main instrument is saxophone.
Mhm.
But I also play clarinet, flute. Um, I also teach. So I teach all those instruments, but I also teach like some of the double reeds, so oboe and bassoon, and I run like was it like five bands, probably more than that, six bands or something in school. Um, that's quite yeah, it's quite fun. They keep me on my toes. It's like anything from grade 5 to like year 12s. Um, as far as gigs go, I've got a gig that I do every Wednesday, and it's at a place called Old Plates in Fitzroy, and we play South African jazz. Um, it's got a lot of we have a lot of guests come as well, so every week is completely different, even though some of the music's the same. And that is we have this drummer named Brian Abrahams, and he's like, well, he's got to be in his 70s, but he's played with like some of the greats, like Abdullah Ibrahim, and just just everybody. He's like a character. You got to come at least one time just to experience him. And I've got this other gig coming up at Bird's Basement on June 13th with this guy, Junior Terry, who's a Cuban musician. He's a bass player. He's spent a lot of time in New York playing with like a bunch of people. It's all Cuban music, some originals and some from just people that he's played. We had a gig the other day at Uptown Jazz Cafe as like a little practice run for this next gig. Yeah, so that's Bird's Basement on the 13th. I think the band's called Afro-Cuban Roots.
Wow. And then your
Awesome.
music for that, so are you learning these songs? So is that sort of the same thing? You're learning these songs, or are you lucky enough where you've got the music in front of you for these
Yeah, I
ones?
do have the music in front of me.
Yes.
That makes it a
Less
lot
homework.
easier.
Come on, Robbie Williams, just allow him to have the sheet music, bro.
It's just like an industry thing. I did this gig one time. It was on Australia's Got Talent with Guy Sebastian, and that was a similar thing. So it's like a studio set. So they don't like the way it looks with music stands.
Yeah.
So they didn't tell us that we had to have it memorized. But when we showed up on the day, they're like, "Oh yeah, here's the music. You need to have it memorized. We're rolling in like 2 hours."
Oof.
Oh,
Oy.
yeah.
So good.
That's
Hey,
They like to
crazy.
drop it on us.
jumping back to jiu-jitsu, Ronnie, have you had any injuries?
A couple. I feel like I've been blessed, honestly. But I broke my radius, like when I was a white belt. I broke a finger.
How did you break
Um,
the radius?
this is the best story. This is the best story. I'm gonna blame you too. I was watching this instructional on someone talking about doing cross chokes, and they were saying, yeah, like when you do the cross chokes, you need to like, like rotate your wrists, right? And I was rolling with this guy. His name was also Ron. He was a cop. I don't think he's training anymore. But I was like on Neon Belly, and he was like planting his head like super hard, trying to make it hard for me to get my arms and my hands in his collar. But I got my hands in the collar, and so I was trying to lift his head, and then I was like rotating my wrist at the same time, and I broke my own radius.
This is the grip
Classic.
strength that we've got to deal with when we're rolling with Ronnie.
That was when
Yeah,
he was a
it's
white
pretty
belt.
funny.
Now he's got the
Yeah.
technique and he can still break you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
good
sorry, you were
one.
saying, and so your fingers as well, was there other body
Yeah,
parts?
that one, that was a good lesson, actually. I was rolling with someone and I had like a pocket grip, and I wasn't like, we were just, might have been like at the end of class or something like that. So I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I was just holding it to be holding it. And so I kind of had it loose because I wasn't really using it. And he kind of like turned and pulled, and my finger got caught in it. and it just like a spiral flat. So you could see the scar maybe.
Yeah.
Oof.
But the lesson was if you're gonna hold a grip, you gotta hold it. If you're not gonna use it, let it go. And also, the other lesson would be, like you don't always have to like just hold it as hard as you can. You can let it go and just grab it again. That's a free lesson.
Yeah, write that one. Write that one down.
Yeah,
I'm still trying to learn that one. I
yeah,
think sometimes I think, no, keep holding it, keep holding it. It's like this is not good for you.
yeah. No.
And then, um, is there something? So that spiral fracture of your finger, that then puts a bit of a dampener onto the music stuff that you can do, or do you always sort of figure a way out? Like playing
I
wind instruments,
was.
you kind of need your fingers, right? Oh, and
Yeah.
also playing wind instruments, does that help with breathing through jiu-jitsu?
Um. Maybe. Maybe.
Okay.
The finger thing, I got lucky because it was on my right hand and it was like a dominant gripping grip. So they decided to do surgery straight away and they put a screw in there, which meant I only missed one gig. And because as
Wow.
soon as they put that screw in, there was no pain. It was just like sticky. Like so you
Yeah,
start out and you're trying to
yeah,
close your hand, you can't close it, and so
yeah.
you just have to keep going until you can close it. So I could still play and no pain. So I got lucky with that one. The breathing thing, the reason why I say kind of is because like while you're rolling, no, I don't think it helps, right? But like when you're recovering, like so, in those moments when you can catch your breath a little bit, I always worked out that the thing that I was having trouble with is like slowing down the breathing. And like using the theory behind, it's like actually the opposite. So when you're blowing into a wind instrument, you're actually trying to like close up the space to speed up the air so that the air goes faster when there's a smaller opening. So if I'm trying to catch my breath, you might even hear me do it. Like, so I'll breathe in, and when I breathe out, I make a small hole. So it doesn't just come out really fast. It comes out really slow. And then it forces you to slow your breathing. So I do that
Gotcha.
all the time.
Yeah, awesome, awesome.
Yeah,
And that
I've never heard that because obviously after our rolls, you don't really need to slow your breathing too much.
we're the ones that have to struggle with the breathing,
Yeah,
eh,
yeah.
Brent? Yeah, yeah.
That's
Yeah, no,
funny.
that's true what you were saying about the closing of the space as well, because that applies to jiu-jitsu, in positions as well, doesn't it? So that's that
Well, yeah.
comparison.
Technique and everything.
Yeah, yeah, for
Even the
sure.
little things.
For sure. Look, we're nearly out of time. Thank you so much for giving up your time, Ron. You're a very busy man. Normally, Brent and I do these recordings during the weekdays, but we've doing it after hours with you just so we could make sure we don't miss out on the Ronnie goodness. And I think we've got a
Thank you.
couple of pop quiz questions that Brent asks at the end of every episode now that we're going to
Excellent.
go through.
Let's do it. All right, Ronnie, iPhone or Samsung?
iPhone.
Oh, mate, you've been around Link too long. Uh, strength or flexibility?
I'm gonna have to go with flexibility because I wish that I had it.
Pasta or rice?
Rice,
Steak or chicken?
steak.
Ghee or no ghee?
Oh, that's a really hard one. I mean, honestly, if I had to choose one to do forever, I'd probably go Nogi.
Yep. Favorite belt that you've ever been?
The brown belt was a good one because I feel like I actually learned the most during that time.
I like that. Um, 80cc or CJI? What one would you compete in?
I actually would like to have a go at the wall, so I say CGI.
It looks fun, eh?
Yeah,
The
it does.
the stuff that they did at Absolute the other day. Um, Juzzy, who's one of our teammates who a lot of people will know, he put on a massive, just
Yes,
an
he did.
amazing show. But watching him like cartwheel up the wall and like it just looks like it would be so much fun.
Oh, well, I like the improv of everything, right?
Yeah.
So, like, I feel like you could do things that are unexpected with that wall.
Yeah.
Like Craig Jones hitting that triangle when he ran up the
Exactly.
wall
Yeah.
and then I'm like, what? That was just
No
ridiculous.
one would
Yeah.
expect that.
No, no. So
Yeah.
that was awesome.
Yeah.
And then the last one is private instructions or online instructionals.
Private.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, the Gracie University didn't do too well for the online stuff, so private sounds like a
Well,
good way to go.
I will tell you one thing about the Gracie University thing. When I went to do my first class, it actually did come in handy. I think I might have submitted someone the first day with their Americana technique.
The big guys Americana, I love it.
Yeah, there you go. And without
So
the
there's something.
Gracie University, you may not have come to jiu-jitsu. So,
That's
you
true.
know, it
Exactly.
has
That is
been a
true.
good thing for you. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you think
Good
Theo
thing I
was
didn't
looking for
buy their
like the
blue belt
scariest
though.
role?
What's that?
Sorry,
Do
I
you
missed
think
that.
do you think Theo was looking for him being the scariest role?
Yeah, he wanted it.
Oh,
I
he
think
is
he
pretty
wanted that answer.
scary.
Yeah.
He is pretty scary. But he's so smiley as well.
Yeah. No, but we all do definitely move out of the way when you guys are rolling together
Yeah,
for
that's for
sure,
sure.
because
That's
nobody
probably the
wants,
safe bet.
yeah, 200 plus kilos on us. Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to do the
Ronnie,
wrap up?
that was awesome, Ronnie. It was great to sit down and have a chat with you, mate. Kim, awesome guest. Like, it was great to have Ronnie come in. So I don't get to see you. I sort of train different days, but every now and again we sort of bump into each other, and it's always a pleasure seeing you and talking to you and getting those roles in when I can, mate. So again, thanks for taking the time out of your day to come on the podcast. We appreciate it. And then for everybody else, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Roll or Die. Keep training. Remember, it's not about the belt, it's about the journey. A big shout out to our sponsor, Athletic Body Care, for keeping us fresh on and off the mat. If you enjoyed the show, please don't forget to like, rate, and share, and subscribe on YouTube. That's our big thing at the moment. And all other platforms. If you're on Spotify, please subscribe, or whatever platforms you listen to the podcasts on. Check out our merchandise. We've still got a couple of T-shirts left, I think. And that's it. Tell your friends about the podcast. Tell your training mates. Tell your coaches. Tell your teammates. Tell those brand new white belts to get on, because there's some cool information that Ronnie's given out today and that past guests have given out. So, that can sort of not age. There's always going to be this great information. That's it. Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you, Kim.
Thank
And we'll
you.
see you all on the next episode of Roll or Die.